The Space Marine Legions, or the Legiones Astartes, were the original unit formations of the Space Marines created during the first founding by the Emperor of Mankind on Terra in the late 30th millennium. The founding happened before the start of the Great Crusade that reunited the scattered walls of humanity beneath the banner of the Imperium of Man, while the Unification Wars were still raging on Terra. Unlike the current Adeptus Astartes, who served the Imperium of the late 41st millennium as a planetary assault and rapid strike force, the Space Marine Legions were the primary frontline military forces of the ancient Imperium of Man. This changed after the second founding, when the Astra Militarum replaced the Legiones Astartes as the Imperium frontline armed forces, turning the Space Marine chapters to a special operations troops. Unlike the present-day Adeptus Astartes, who were created after the second founding at the end of the Horus Heresy, a Space Marine Legion could number anywhere from 10,000 to more than 250,000 Space Marines, plus the Legion's associated Imperial Army, logistical support forces, and Armada Imperialis fleet elements. A force of 100 of these warriors could quell a rebellious city in hours, thousands could conquer a world in a matter of days, and tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands once were the doom of entire species, capable of reducing alien civilizations to mere dust and memory in a single year. Of the 20 original Space Marine Legions, 2 legions, the 2nd and the 11th Legions, nothing can be found about them, as they were struck from Imperial records. The other 18 would grow to their full might by the end of the Great Crusade in the early 31st millennium and the beginning of the Horus Heresy. 9 of these legions would stay loyal to the Emperor of Mankind during the Horus Heresy, and now they serve as the genetic forebears of all current loyalist Space Marine chapters. The legions were aided by the ground and naval forces of the Imperial Army, the predecessor of the present-day Astra Militarum and Imperial Navy. But these forces served in support and garrison duties, while the heaviest combat were always carried out by the Astartes legions. At the beginning of the Great Crusade, the stability of Astartes gene seed started to diminish through overuse and the increasing need for more Space Marines. After the discovery of the Primarchs and their new homeworlds, a solution was presented. A Primarch's genetic code could be used to stabilize and expand Astartes gene seed stocks, and became known as Grappia's theorem. This accelerated technique to create larger Space Marine legions played a prime role in the degradation of the sanity and psychological makeup of certain legions, and paved the way for the horror that was to come. 9 of the 20 original Space Marine legions chose to follow the War Master Horus and turn to chaos. They became the traitor legions of Chaos Space Marines that still threaten the Imperium today. In the end, the Horus Heresy made clear that no single commander could be trusted to wield the enormous power of a Space Marine Legion, never mind several at once. The Ultramarines Primarch Roboute Guilliman reshaped the Space Marine Legions into the Adeptus Astartes to protect humanity from the rise of another Horus. The legions were massive armies, and the size of each legion depended on a lot of variations, like the number of new recruits available, the inevitable battle losses, and the administrative skills of the Primarch and his officers. The largest of all the Space Marine legions at the time of the Horus Heresy was the Ultramarines, followed by the Word Bearers. The Ultramarines numbered approximately 250,000 Astartes at their peak before the Battle of Qarth, and the Word Bearers approximately 100,000. After the second founding, more successor chapters were created from the Ultramarines than any other loyalist legion due to its sheer size, purity, and stability of their gene seed. The Thousand Sons Legion of Magnus the Red was most likely the smallest of the Astartes legion, as many of the Space Marines within its ranks had developed rampant mutations or uncontrollable levels of psychic power and had to be granted the Emperor's peace. The Primarch Fulgrim's gene samples had been largely lost on Terra, making it difficult to develop new gene seed for his third legion, and this meant that the Emperor's children found it difficult to recruit new Astartes, leaving it with a relatively small number of Space Marines. But both of these legions would increase their number to acceptable levels only after the Primarchs were found by the Emperor during the course of the Great Crusade. Before the rediscovery of the Primarchs, the Astartes legions were under the direct command of the Emperor, and all Space Marine recruits were drawn from Terra itself, rather than the later legion homeworlds of the Primarchs. As the Primarchs were found, the new recruits would have very strong loyalties towards them, and some of the Primarchs would rename their legions to accord with their own personalities and cultural sensibilities. The Emperor saw no problem with this development. He believed the loyalty of the Primarchs to him was unshakable. This was a big mistake, for the Primarchs were still human beings and prone to all the sins of humanity, including greed, anger, and lust for power, recognition, and advancement, all emotions that left them vulnerable to the temptations offered by the ruinous powers of chaos. The first Primarch to be found was Horus, rediscovered on the world of Cathonia. He was the Emperor's favorite, and he and his 16th Legion, the Lunar Wolves, were granted the honor of being renamed the Sons of Horus, following Horus's elevation to the rank of War Master. The 1st Legion was given the name Dark Angels by Lionel Johnson, and the 14th Legion, the Dusk Raiders, had their moniker changed to the Death Guard by Mortarion. While its original name is unknown, the highly honorific name Emperor's Children was awarded by the Emperor to the 3rd Legion, only after a speech made by the Primarch Fulgrim, so impressed with the Emperor of Mankind that he granted the coveted moniker to Fulgrim's Legion. The 5th Legion was called the Star Hunters, before being reunited with their Primarch Jaghatai, who renamed them the White Scars. The 12th Legion was known as the War Hounds, before the Primarch Angron renamed them the World Eaters. The 17th Legion, the Imperial Heralds, were renamed the Word Bearers after being reunited with the highly religious Primarch Lorgar, who tragically intended to bring word of the Emperor's divinity to every world that his legion brought into Imperial compliance. The 9th Legion was known as the Revenant Legion early in the Great Crusade. This was because of taking new recruits who were suffering from genetic and environmental diseases and remaking them as healthy Astartes, and because its Astartes often took on the identities of senior officers who were slain in battle, using their mutated homophagia implant to ingest their flesh and gain their memories and skills. To outsiders, it seemed that many of the Astartes of the Revenant Legion kept returning from certain death. When the Primarch Sanguinius was reunited with his legion, he renamed them the Blood Angels, determined to remake them in his more noble image. Summary of the Legions. The 1st Legion, the Dark Angels, Homeworld, Caliban, Allegiance, Loyalist, Primarch, Lionel Johnson. His body currently resides in stasis aboard the Rock, the Dark Angels Fortress Monastery. The 3rd Legion, the Emperor's Children, Homeworld, Chemos, Allegiance, Traitor, Primarch, Fulgrim. He achieved apotheosis during the Horus Heresy and was transformed into a demon prince of Slanesh. The 4th Legion, the Iron Warriors, Homeworld, Olympia, Allegiance, Traitor, Primarch, Perturabo. He achieved apotheosis and was transformed into a demon prince of Chaos Undivided. The 5th Legion, the White Scars, Homeworld, Corvus, Allegiance, Loyalist, Primarch, Jaghatai. He disappeared in the year 84 of the 31st millennia into a region of space known as the Maelstrom, a large warp rift in the Ultima Segmentum. The 6th Legion, the Space Wolves, Homeworld, Fenris, Allegiance, Loyalist, Primarch, Leman Russ. In the year 211 of the 31st millennia, Leman Russ disappeared with the warriors of his vanguard, his destination and fate unknown. The 7th Legion, the Imperial Fists, Homeworld, Terra, Allegiance, Loyalist, Primarch, Rogal Dorn. He was supposedly slain on board the Chaos Despoiler class battleship Sword of Sacrilege in the First Black Crusade war fleet in the late 31st millennium. The 8th Legion, the Night Lords, Homeworld, Nostromo, Allegiance, Traitor, Primarch, Konrad Curze. He was slain by an assassin following the end of the Horus Heresy in the early 31st millennium. The 9th Legion, the Blood Angels, Homeworld, Baal, Allegiance, Loyalist, Primarch, Sanguinius. Dead, slain by Horus aboard his battle barge the Vengeful Spirit at the climax of the Battle of Terra. His death imprinted a psychic scar in the Blood Angel Legion's genetic memory, the Black Rage. The 10th Legion, the Iron Hands. Homeworld, Medusa. Allegiance, Loyalist. Primarch, Ferrus Manus. Dead, beheaded by Fulgrim during the drop site massacre on Estevan V. The 12th Legion, the World Eaters. Homeworld, Nuceria. Allegiance, Traitor. Primarch, Angron. He achieved apotheosis and was transformed into a demon prince of Khorne. The 13th Legion, the Ultramarines. Homeworld, Macragge. Allegiance, Loyalist. Primarch, Roboute Guilliman. He was mortally wounded by Fulgrim at the Battle of Thessala in the year 121 of the 31st millennia, but he kept in stasis in the Temple of Correction on the world of Macragge until the year 999 of the 31st millennia, when he was resurrected by Belisarius Cael. The 14th Legion, the Death Guard. Homeworld, Barbarous. Allegiance, Traitor. Primarch, Mortarion. He achieved apotheosis and was transformed into a demon prince of Nurgle. The 15th Legion, the Thousand Sons. Homeworld, Prospero. Allegiance, Traitor. Primarch, Magnus the Red. He achieved apotheosis and was transformed into a demon prince of Tzeentch. 16th Legion, the Sons of Horus. Homeworld, Cathonia. Allegiance, Traitor. Primarch, Horus. Dead, utterly destroyed, mind, body and soul, by the Emperor of Mankind at the climax of the Battle of Terra, and with his death ended the heresy. The 17th Legion, the Word Bearers. Homeworld, Colchis. Allegiance, Traitor. Primarch, Lorgar Aurelian. He achieved apotheosis and was transformed into a demon prince of Chaos Undivided. The 18th Legion, the Salamanders. Homeworld, Nocturne. Allegiance, Loyalist. Primarch, Vulkan. Disappeared. Location currently unknown. The 19th Legion, the Raven Guard. Homeworld, Deliverance. Allegiance, Loyalist. Primarch, Corvus Corax. He disappeared, last seen heading for the Eye of Terror. The 20th Legion, the Alpha Legion. Homeworld, Unknown. Allegiance, Traitor. Possibly Loyalist. Primarch, Alpharius and Omegon, twins. One of the twins might be dead, slain by Roboute Guilliman after the Horus Heresy. Both twins sided with Horus and were declared traitor by the Imperium. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, and always stay tuned for more.